Hello and welcome to another episode of Full Court Finance here at Zach's. I'm your host, Ben Rains, and we had a week off to start the new year because I was out of town and just the holidays get really crazy, but I am glad to be back. And today we're talking about a topic we haven't talked about in a while, but it's one it's kind of flown under the radar because for the last couple of years it's been, the NFL is on the decline, blah, 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 blah. Even though on this show I've talked about how that's not necessarily the case. But late last week, the NFL's regular season TV ratings came out, and they are up. And then we're also going to talk about how the NFL is finally jumping into sports gambling, sports betting. And we're going to say that they're sort of doing that because there was some big news breaking last week that they jumped into sports betting, but that's not exactly what happened. But before we get into all of that, I want to say, remember, if you have any questions or episode suggestions, please feel free to shoot us an email over at podcast@zax.com. Also, make sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It'd be hard-pressed to start a NFL rating show without at least touching on this weekend's wild card round of NFL games. And Zach's is based in Chicago, so a lot of Bears fans here this morning are a little upset, to say the least, with the kicker, Cody Parkey, missing what would have been a game-winning field goal to send the Bears to the next round of the playoffs. But I won't jump into all of this heartbreaking Chicago sports talk. But just that the NFL is a big deal. It's going to be a big deal for a long time. And their viewership numbers this year really show how important the NFL is in terms of not just American audiences watching TV, but the big business of the NFL going forward. So the NFL averaged 15.8 million viewers during the 2018 regular season, and these are across national TV games. And this marked 5% growth from the 2017's numbers, which were just under 15 million. And this is significant because it marked the first time the TV ratings increased since 2015, and it was the NFL's largest percentage jump this decade in terms of TV viewership. Overall, this simply helps prove a point I've been trying to make on this show that says that live sports rights will become really the only thing on TV that advertisers care about, because it's really the only thing in the age of Netflix and Amazon Prime that anyone really, really needs to watch live besides, say, last night's Golden Globes, but that is really few and far between compared to NFL games. And then, obviously, it's a little easy to say, the NFL's ratings are up 5%. That's great. But we do have to put it into a little bit of perspective and remember that the NFL's ratings peaked in 2015 when they reached just under 18 million viewers per average NFL national TV game. And then they're obviously down since then still. So 2016's ratings fell 8%, 2017's were down 9%. So you're still down a little bit from then, around actually 12% if you crunch the numbers. But still, 2018, it's a great sign that the ratings were up 5%, especially as the rest of TV falls. And now I want to jump into a little bit of the specifics in terms of the networks themselves, which did the best and where the most growth was coming from. So for Fox, Sunday afternoon games, they jumped roughly 2% to 18 million. And then CBS Sunday afternoon games climbed 6% to just around 16.5 million. And then NBC Sunday Night Football, which is the big game for the NFL every week, that jumped 6% to 19.3 million. And then Thursday Night Football, combined on Fox and NFL Network, which was also streamed on Amazon Prime, was up 4% to roughly 15 million. And then Disney, actually, which owns ESPN, they could be maybe the happiest at this point because Monday Night Football saw the biggest jump out of all of these weekly slate of games. It jumped 8%, but still it is the lowest viewed games out of all of these. That's probably because it's on cable, just in the sense that not everyone has cable, when all of these other CBS, Fox, and NBC are on what we would call like regular television. So they were up 8% to 11.6 million. So that's good news for Disney and ESPN going forward. And then overall, these ratings increases could help the NFL leverage they have more leverage in their upcoming rights deals, which are going to be coming up in the next couple of years, with a lot of these current TV deals running through either the 2021 season or the 2022 season with ESPN, CBS, NBC, Fox, and then also DirecTV through its Sunday ticket. And then also there are a couple more stats that might help show just how important the NFL is to advertisers and just really make their business partners smile after what had been a couple years of maybe a little unease for how much money they're spending. So we're talking about Nike, who's the official jersey partner of the NFL, PepsiCo, which is everywhere with the NFL, Anheuser-Busch, Ford, Microsoft, the new official pizza of the NFL, Pizza Hut. All of these companies really do have a huge vested interest in the ratings not trending in the wrong direction. So this number, it might seem obvious to some people. It seems obvious to me, but it really, when you say it out loud, it is still very impressive. So overall, the NFL accounted for 46 of the top 50 telecasts during the span of their regular season, which to me, that's just pretty mind-blowing. And then overall, the amount of digital streaming viewership for NFL games was up 86% this season. So both of those numbers really show just how positive the business of the NFL has been this past year, and that they're trending in the right direction in terms of streaming viewership, and just how important every NFL game is during its regular season to advertisers, which in the end is really all that the business of TV is about. And then another stat was particularly exciting because it's not doesn't have anything to do with TV, and it's not just people are maybe casually tuning in a little bit more, but they're also buying more than they were last season. So in e-commerce, the e-commerce sports apparel giant Fanatics, which operates the NFL shop.com, saw a 25% increase in regular season merchandise sales, which is pretty impressive because that's not something that just you just flip the TV on, you're going to watch an NFL game. You're deciding you're going to go buy NFL gear. So that's good news for the league. And as I said, all of their business partners going forward. And then as just a little bit of a side note, Fanatics is going to be a pretty big part of the NFL and Nike for the next decade, because this past offseason, the NFL and Nike signed a 10-year licensing deal with Fanatics that will see Fanatics become, and this is from the official wording, the exclusive manufacturer and distributor of all Nike-branded NFL merchandise, except for kids' clothing, starting in 2019. And that's a 10-year deal. And now I kind of want to just speculate a little bit on why the NFL ratings jumped 5% after a couple years of declines. You could say that maybe, and I don't want to get very political, but it seems like the drama of this national anthem controversy has slowly died down, despite the season starting off really on a fever pitch with Nike coming out with its Colin Kaepernick ad right before the season started. You thought maybe this would kind of hang over the NFL's head throughout the entire year. But I consider myself a pretty avid sports fan, and I can say that I don't think that national anthem controversy really remained in the zeitgeist throughout the season at all. And then I pulled this from a Sports Illustrated article that was kind of recapping the NFL season. And this stat was relatively jarring. It also shows how important this might have been to the ratings decline last season, that President Donald Trump directly mentioned the NFL in only 5 tweets this season, 2 of which were promoting a 60 Minutes appearance that he made. And this is compared to 23 times during the 2017 season, when the national anthem controversy kind of took center stage and he was talking about it all of the time. So you could say right there that that's a big drop off, and that could have been really good for ratings. And then also Commissioner Roger Goodell, who had kind of become the bad guy, the evil head of the NFL, he slowly managed to kind of avoid some of the spotlight this year. And there was seemingly less off the field issues with players in terms of really bad controversy, domestic violence, all of that stuff. Even though that still happened this year, nothing really seemed to linger in the headlines. And then there had also been talk of fatigue, that now with Thursday night games, there was just too many games. They had Monday, all of Sunday, and Thursday night. But actually, Thursday night football has really turned into be a big winner. It started in 2006, and at the time, that's when that oversaturation conversation started. But this past season, Thursday Night Football became the number 2 show in primetime, behind only Sunday Night Football, which is the number 1 show in primetime for the 8th consecutive season. And then overall, in terms of the play on the field, it seemed that the massive amount of scoring, historic season for scoring in the NFL, certainly didn't hurt the ratings, and there was a lot of fun, young talent. And then also there could have been... what could have also helped, I should say, is that legalized sports gambling took hold in some states throughout the country, which brings me to my next topic, which in the long run will prove to be maybe more significant than this 5% jump in ratings. And that is that last week on Thursday, the NFL signed a deal with Caesars Entertainment that will see it become, quote, the official casino sponsor of the NFL. So the NFL is now the last of the 4 major North American professional sports leagues to officially partner with a casino/gaming company. But the NFL is a little bit different in its deal. So I want to quickly go over what the other 3 leagues have done to contrast it with what the NFL is doing and talk about sports gambling going forward. Major League Baseball has signed a deal with MGM that sees Major League Baseball give some of their live data rights or live data to MGM at the moment. And then they also have some marketing partnerships with the MGM that will see the team logos and Major League Baseball logos used throughout their sports books. And then the NBA, as pretty much to be expected, was the first league to jump in because Adam Silver had been at the forefront of this legalized gambling movement for pro sports. Had pretty much a very similar deal as Major League Baseball with these live rights, which will become really huge as this in-game betting becomes the future of sports betting in general. And then the NHL signed a very similar deal as well with MGM. So Major League Baseball, NBA, and the NHL all signed deals with MGM, resorts that have it be the team, the league, logos on sports books, and then live data that MGM can use as well. So this brings me back to the NFL's deal, because the NFL's deal is relatively different at the moment. And once again, it kind of shows that they're a little bit behind the times and that they're running a much bigger business than all of these other leagues, and they don't want to step on anyone's toes, and they don't want to offend any of their fan base or any of their business partners. So at this point, the NFL's deal with Caesars, I'm just going to take this from the official press release because it's just the best way to do it at this point, since all this information is still relatively new. It's not exactly clear if this is going to be anything more than just kind of a, hey, we partnered with Caesars in name only. So this is from the press release, beginning in the upcoming 2019 playoffs, this multi-year sponsorship is focused on Caesars providing unique experiences for NFL fans by using its casino properties, celebrity chefs, premier music artists, and a wide range of entertainment elements. Caesars will have the exclusive rights to use NFL trademarks in the United States and the United Kingdom to promote Caesars casino properties, and activate at key NFL events, including the Super Bowl and NFL Draft. Caesars, alongside other properties on the world-famous Las Vegas Strip, will host elements of the 2020 Draft in coordination with the city of Las Vegas to help create this historic event. And then it kind of goes on a little bit more after that. But in the end, this really just means that Caesars gets to use the NFL logo while promoting their brand, but it's not specific to their sports books, and they will not be getting any live data rights, unlike the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball's deal. But what's really crazy about this is that this must be kind of a long-term deal. You would think maybe behind the scenes with Caesar, that in a couple years they will get this live data from the NFL, which will become extremely valuable, because this deal is reportedly worth $25 million a year, when the NBA's deal is worth $24 million over a 3-year period, and the NBA, or in the Major League Baseball's, is worth $40 million over a 4-year period. So it's way more expensive for what seems to just be kind of like, hey, Caesars can say we sponsor the NFL, and that's really all we're doing. So it's really interesting, because at this moment, legalized gambling is really moving forward relatively quickly. There's already 8 states that it's completely legalized, with 30 more have already passed some bills, or not passed bills, but they have bills that are trying to get passed, that are eventually maybe going to be passed. And the idea is, in the end, it could be a majority of states have legalized sports gambling based on polls within the next 3 years. So by 2022, a majority of states could easily have legalized sports gambling, which would mean that the business is just too big for the NFL kind of to back away from, especially when you consider that 2 of its most prominent owners, which are Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys and Robert Kraft of the New England Patriots, are currently investors in DraftKings, which is already rolling out its live betting business through their app in New Jersey. So we'll see how that goes going forward, because there's some rules, and I don't really want to get into all the details. But if eventually more of their money comes from live in-game betting and betting in general than what they call daily fantasy, Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft might have to force to sell their stakes. So we'll see what that happens going forward. But then I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about this report from the Action Network, which covers sports gambling pretty much exclusively. They were privy to some of the happenings at the NFL owners meeting this past December, and they basically said that in one slide presentation, the owners in the league say that it will soon license its data to casinos, that it'll license its video rights to sports gambling shows, and that it'll start doing deals with sports books as soon as it's a national market. So as I said, if we consider a national market meaning maybe a majority of states, that could be within the next couple of years. As I said, we already have 8 states. We're going to easily get to maybe that 25 threshold, 26 threshold sooner than later, because you already have in New Jersey FanDuel, MGM, William Hill, DraftKings, are all in there. They're all rolling out sports betting apps. And we already had, let me pull this stat up, I believe we already had $1 billion bet on sports within the first 6 months. And as most people know, just kind of intuitively, football is the biggest sport to gamble on in the United States. 37% of Americans still say football is their favorite sport to watch. That's fallen slightly from its peak in 2007 when it was at 43%, and this is according to a Gallup poll. And this crushes basketball at 11%, baseball at 9%, and soccer at 7%. But obviously there are some things for the NFL and football to worry about. High school participation has slowly trickled in the wrong direction over the last couple of years. It was down 2% in 2017. In overall enrollment in high school football has declined 6.6% over the last decade, and this is according to the National Federation of State High School Football, or the National Federation of State High School Associations, some acronym of that. And then this is happening at the same time that we've seen 29 consecutive years of overall growth in participation in high school sports, while while football is trending in the wrong direction. And obviously, it's really hard to say that, oh, you have a 2% drop in high school football participation, that's somehow going to hurt the NFL in the long run. But the sense is that if eventually less and less people are playing football, that's going to water down the NFL's product. And this is not in 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years, but maybe in 30 years, the NFL could really see an impact from a slowly people playing less and less football. But as I've talked about this year, so far. The NFL is still in a really great position. The ratings are now up 5% from last season. They're experimenting with new things where they've been a little worried about trying to do that going forward. They are a little bit behind the eight ball in terms of their social media presence, especially on the more millennial-driven Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. The NBA has 33.5 million followers on Instagram, while the NFL only has 13. So they're getting crushed there by about 20 million, but they're partnering with Amazon. Amazon's now streaming Thursday Night Football for free on its Twitch platform to experiment going forward. So you really see what they can do in the next few years. They're even rolling out for the playoffs you can now ask Amazon Alexa devices all these different questions about the NFL. It's called the Rookie's Guide to the NFL. So they're trying, where in the past they had been a little stuck in their ways. They're rolling out this new casino partnership, and we'll really see where it goes from there. I'm sorry I'm a little jumbling my words at the end. I just have too much to say about where the NFL could go in terms of all the opportunities for growth, especially on the youth level in terms of fan base, because that's really all that matters is, are people watching, are people engaged on a weekly and daily basis? And that's why gambling and social media will certainly become major factors in the long run. So that does it for another episode of Full Court Finance. Until next time, I'm your host, Ben Rains. And remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot us an email over at podcast@zax.com.